What's up, guys? So I want to tell you a real story, and it's going to be a little bit of a longer video, but I want to tell you a story of a guy that I recently met who sold his business for a couple $100 million. I'm telling the story because it's inspiring, first off, and I think it's going to teach you a lesson. I know it taught me a lesson. So Mitch, my business partner, we were at the gym about a week or so ago, and normally we go in the mornings like 7 o'clock. But for whatever reason, we didn't go that morning, and we were going to go later in the afternoon around like 4 or 5. Well, I shot him a text around noon, and I said, hey, I got a little bit of free time. Let's go knock the gym out, since I don't have anything going on. So long story short, we go up to the gym, funky time, and we're working out, and there's a guy that comes up to us, right? And he's working out next to us. He's lifting. We're doing free weight stuff. And he's just making little comments here and there, like trying to small talk with us, I can tell. And I'm not paying too much attention to it, but he's cracking little jokes or whatever. And so long story short, like I have this gut feeling like I kind of want to know what this guy does for a living. It's 12 o'clock on a Wednesday, and he's obviously not at work. And so I said, just jokingly, like, you have the day off or something? And he was like, no, actually I'm retired. But he looked pretty young, and I was like, oh man, you seem pretty young to be retired. And he's like, yeah, I'm 53. I sold my business 3 years ago, and I retired when I was 50. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. You own your own company. What did you do? And he said, well, we used to do testing for companies like Porsche or Ferrari. We do like their crash testing or different product testing. And Mitch had said, like, how in the world did you get into that? And he said, it's a funny story. And here's where the lesson comes in. Funny story, so when I was younger, I was at the mall, and I'm walking through, and there's a piece of paper on the floor. He said, and I was kind of a neat freak. He's like, I didn't come from a rich family. In fact, they didn't have very much money at all. I think he mentioned that his family, they were farmers. He's like, but I was a neat freak. And so I picked up the piece of paper off the floor, and I put it in my pocket. And he says, then I kind of just went on my way, and I was going to throw it away when I found a trash can. So, 20 minutes later or whatever, he finds a trash can, tosses it in the trash can. Lady comes up to him and asks him why he picked up that piece of paper. She knew he wasn't an employee at the mall, and he just said, well, it was on the floor, it needed to be picked up. And so she gives him her number. He says, call me, I'd like to bring you in for an interview for my company. And I think the way he told the story was his mom pushed him to call her. She's like, you're calling her. So he calls her. Long story short, she owns a company that does testing for all these expensive brands and products and all that stuff, and he got hired, right? Didn't have a college degree, even though he probably should have had one to get hired at that company, but she hired him because he went above and beyond when nobody was watching. So let's fast track years ahead, right? Somewhere in between, he takes over the company, it partially becomes his, and when he's 50 years old, they sell it for a couple $100 million, okay? And he retires. So it was insane when he told the story. He was like, you don't have to go to college, okay? You don't have to be super smart. He mentioned that he wasn't very good in school. He said, there's a couple things you need to do. You need to do the right thing when nobody's watching. You need to be kind to everybody. And you need to be willing to help anybody who needs help, okay? And I was just thinking, Mitch and I, after we had finished talking to him, we're like, just think how crazy it is that if he didn't bend over to pick up the piece of paper like the other 99 people who walked before him did, where his life would be today. Like, worth a couple $100 million. And just to put that like in perspective for some of you guys that are consuming a ton of content, like that's as much as Gary Vaynerchuk's business does. That is as much as Grant Cardone is worth. Andy Frisella, that is more than he is worth, like big time, like top level, like top 0.1%, of people in the world. And it was only because he did the right thing when nobody was watching. And so, although people probably said, he got lucky or whatever it was, right? If he would have never bent over and picked up that piece of paper, he would have never had that lady come up to him and have her give him her number. And so I just want that to be a lesson to you guys. Like, who knows how many pieces of paper he picked up before he landed that deal, right? And he didn't do it because he was looking for something to get in return. He just did it because it was the right thing. And when you start to do the right thing, good things start to happen. It's the same thing we always say. When you have a marketing plan or a business plan and you stick to it and you're consistent and you do it over and over and over, it always 110% of the time produces good results. And so I just want to encourage you guys with that story, because you just never know. Keep doing the right thing over and over, and good things will happen to you and good things will happen to your business.